Today's stop on this tour of Italian mishaps is the North African desert circa 1940. Here we find the Italian 10th Army, poised in Libya, gazing eastward toward British-held Egypt like a nervous schoolyard bully. Under orders from Mussolini, who's convinced victory will be easier than boiling pasta, the Italians finally invade Egypt in September 1940. After advancing a whopping 60 miles or so into Egypt, the Italian force decides to park itself around the town of Sidi Barrani for a lengthy siesta. Perhaps they were waiting for the British to surrender out of sheer intimidation. Spoiler, the British did not. Enter the British Western Desert Force under General Wavell and a crafty sub-commander, General O'Connor. In December 1940, these Brits and Commonwealth troops, notably Australians, decide to hit the unprepared Italians with a surprise counter-offensive named Operation Compass. Under cover of darkness and sandstorms, British tanks and infantry outflank the clustered Italian camps. The Italians wake up to find Tommy Atkins in their rear. Never a good start to your day. Cue chaos. Italian units, shocked and disoriented, collapse faster than a house of cards in a wind tunnel. Many soldiers simply throw down their rifles and run or surrender, utterly befuddled at how the tables turned so quickly. What was supposed to be a limited raid becomes a full-blown rout. The British chase the retreating Italian army hundreds of miles across the desert, liberating one fortress town after another. At Baie de Fom, no, that's not an Italian desert, it's a place. A small British blocking force manages to halt the entire Italian retreat by parking a few tanks and anti-tank guns on the only road. The Italian columns jam up in a cartoonish traffic jam of trucks and tanks, only to be pounced on. It's a disaster for Italy. By February 1941, 9 Italian divisions are obliterated and the 10th Army ceases to exist. The British advance an incredible 500 miles, almost to Tripoli, on a shoestring force, utterly gobsmacked at their own success. To put the scale of fiasco in perspective, the British-led forces, about 36,000 strong, took over 130,000 Italian prisoners in a few weeks. Yes, you heard that right. The Italians lost more prisoners than the Brits had troops. British units were capturing Italian soldiers by the truckload, often without much of a fight. In fact, the British biggest challenge became where to store all the POWs and how to feed them. Legend has it some Italian supply depots were found intact with pasta still on the stove, as if they left in a hurry. Perhaps apocryphal, but it paints the picture. Meanwhile in Rome, Mussolini was livid at the news. His grand dreams of empire dissolved into a sandy mess, and he had to call Hitler again for help. The Germans promptly dispatched General Erwin Rommel and the Afrika Korps to North Africa, essentially to pull Italy's chestnuts out of the fire. When the Germans have to save you from the British, who were outnumbered to start with, you know you've hit a new low. The Italians had the advantage in numbers and equipment, but squandered it through hesitation, weak strategy, and lack of coordination. General Graziani, leading the 10th Army, earned the unflattering nickname the Indecisive for his timid approach. Operation Compass, on the other hand, became a legendary British triumph, achieved with a fraction of the forces and an abundance of audacity. It's an absurdly one-sided story. One side camped and waited to be thrashed, and the other said, "Alrighty then, let's do this." If ever there was a cautionary tale of how not to invade a country, this was it. For Italy, the whole episode was a giant non andava bene, not going well from start to finish. Operation Compass was a masterclass in military strategy and execution. The British, despite being outnumbered, used superior tactics, intelligence, and sheer audacity to completely outmaneuver the Italian forces. The Italian military's performance in North Africa became a textbook example of how not to conduct a campaign. Poor leadership, lack of preparation, and a general underestimation of their opponent led to one of the most lopsided defeats in modern military history. In contrast, the British forces showed remarkable ingenuity and adaptability. They made the most of their limited resources, often improvising solutions that caught the Italians completely off guard. It was a triumph of quality over quantity. The aftermath of this debacle forced Mussolini to turn to Hitler for help, resulting in the deployment of the Afrika Korps under Erwin Rommel. It was a stark admission that Italy's grand imperial ambitions in North Africa had crumbled faster than a sandcastle in a sandstorm. But hey, at least they provided hilarious forgotten history with prime material on how epic incompetence can change the course of a campaign. Subscribe now for more brutally honest history, only on Hilarious Forgotten History.